Hi everyone, let's talk about TNA wrestling. Let's talk about it, guys. But I was disappointed. What the hell was Carlos Savia thinking having Mike Santana not have a longer title reign? What the was he thinking? I'm sorry to go on my rant, but Mike Santana deserved a better title reign. He deserved a better title reign, Mike Santana. But let's carry away, guys. I'm sorry for yelling and screaming this late. But anyways, guys, it was bullcrap. It was bullcrap I'll say it again. It was bullcrap. It was bullcrap that they didn't have Mike Santana be a champion longer than that. He could have been champion for 9 months. He could have been champion for a year and a half. But no, let's have him freaking lose it freaking in like 3 weeks. Like, what the hell was that, Carlos Savia? Sorry to go on my rant, guys, but this show was decent at best. It wasn't a bad show. It was still a good show, but that was the one of the flaws that I will say that was the worst mistake. But anyways, let's talk about it. But good for Frankie Kazarian. Good for him, winning that cup and beating Mike Santana. But they could have booked that later on in the future in a year or so, or 9 months, or 6 months, or whatever. But no, but no, but no. But let's talk about it, guys. So let's talk about this TNA show. So we kick off things off with the TNA World Champion at the time, Mike Santana, and Mike Santana addresses the crowd in the Impact Zone and speaks on the winning the TNA World Championship at Battles for Glory. And Mike Santana knows that he has a target on his back, especially for the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Cole winner, Nick Nemeth and Frankie Kazarian. And carries Frankie Kazarian cashed in his, Call Your Shot Gauntlet to become the new TNA World Champion, which we'll talk about that in a bit. And then Mike Santana is interrupted by Ryan Nemeth, who's called his brother, and Nick Nemeth is the next TNA World Champion, but Nick Nemeth isn't here because his flight is delayed, and Mike Santana wants to make a sample of Ryan Nemeth and will defend the TNA World title against him and stuff. And then Jess Miller interviews TNA Knockouts World Champion and Kalani Jordan before she defends against Heather by Elegance. I'll say it again. Before she against, I'll say it again. I'll repeat it again, guys. Rushing too fast. Jess Miller interviews TNA Knockouts World Champion Kalani Jordan before she defends against Heather by Elegance. Heather by Elegance, and then Am by Elegance will challenge the winner of that at Turning Point, which we'll talk about that next. How I enjoyed Turning Point, even though, what I'm saying. I really did enjoy Turning Point, though, which we'll talk about that in a bit, even though Mike Santana is not the TNA World Champion anymore. There you go with that one. Then Jordan isn't afraid of competition from the Elegance brand, and Shakira Jackson, I'll just say that, Shakira Jackson, Mira Shade, I'll say it again, Mara Shade, Mara Shanae, and Saya Brookside and Lee Ling Lee, Saya Lee offered Kalani Jordan a place in their locker room, but she turned them down. Then we had Santino Marella introduce the NXT GM Eva Rain, and she speaks on the history partnership between TNA and NXT. And Eva welcomes back Ariana Grace as she returns to her role as the collision between TNA and NXT, and she promised to assert things to stay. So I'll say again, to say civil between the two brands. Then we had I'll say again. Then we had this match with Indy Hartwell and Lenny. I'll say again, guys. Denny Luna. I'll say again. Dana Luna. I'll say again. Dana. I'll say again. Dana Luna. Dana Luna fences Indy Hartwell. This was a good match till it ended in a disqualification. But the good thing is they had a match again at Turning Point, which was better without DQ. Which, let's talk about it, guys. But Dana Luna fences Indy Hartwell. This was a good match till the disqualification happened. But the good thing is that they had a rematch at Turning Point, which was better, which we'll talk about that match. That match with the no disqualification with Indy Hartwell and Dana Luna, that slapped. That slapped. But anyways, let's talk about it anyways, guys. So Indy Hartwell since revenge on Dana Luna as they renewed their rivalry, and then Dana Luna takes control early as she hits a limping clothesline off the ropes, and Indy Hartwell builds momentum with a series of lariats, and the fight spills to the outside where Indy Hartwell hits a cinch spinebuster on the floor, and Indy Hartwell sorts with a top rope elbow drop for two, and Dana Luna counters her donut into a single leg drop kick, and Dana Luna brings a steel chair into the ring, and then a frustrated Indy Hartwell assaults Dana Luna with the chair, causing the disqualification. And that's what happened, and that's how Indy Hartwell got disqualified, and that's how Dana Luna defeated Indy Hartwell with DQ. Then we had Eric Young warns fans outside the Impact Zone that the cleanest is coming, and Indy Hartwell challenged Dana Luna to a no disqualification match, which, like I said again, we'll talk about that in a bit. Then we had the System join us on TNA's show, and Moose and Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers and JDC and Alicia Edwards for flex on their since victory over Order 4 in a hardcore war, which we talked about that a while back. Then an emotional JDC, family, formerly as, Fandango, you know what I'm saying, family is known as Fandango, you remember Fandango, and announces that he will be retiring from in-ring competition this January at Genesis. What's your guys' thoughts on Fandango, known as Fandango, JDC retiring from professional wrestling? Put your thoughts down below on the replay. I love it as well, guys, on the replay as well. So yes, guys. Then we had the Rascals challenge the System to a one last match before CJD retires. Then, at Turning Point, the System battled, Trey Manuel and Zachary Wentz and Ryan Reed and other followed Rascals, which we'll talk about that in a bit, guys. Then they talked about the injuries. Elijah is out with torn ribs, and Alicia Edwards is cleared after, the bruising injury. Then Leon Slater is cleared following a cinch schedule, and then Mike Santana was cleared, and stuff and all that jazz. Then the TNA World Tag Team Champions, the Hardys, are confronted by Ordered 4 backstage, and Mustafa Ali claims that the Great Hands will one day dethrone them. Then earlier in the night, BDE, that guy, that YouTuber, BTE, you guys love him all. I know you guys like him, most of you, but some of you might not like him, but I like the dude too, BTE, the YouTuber BTE. So, was thrown through a table by AJ Francis on the first class penthouse, and BTE battled AJ Francis to a match at Turning Point, which I was disappointed with that match. We'll talk about that in the next review. And then we had Leon Slater endorse BTE when Rick Swann interrupted, and Rick Swann challenged Leon Slater to an X Division title match on the Turning Point, which was a great match, guys. We'll talk about that match with Leon Slater. That was a great match with Leon Slater and Rick Swann. We'll talk about that too, guys. Then we had Cedric Alexander fences Jason Hutch, which was a decent match. Let's talk about it, guys. So Cedric Alexander goes one-on-one with Jason Hutch of Order 4, and Mustafa Ali joins the commentary team, and Jason Hutch plays to the camera, allowing Cedric Alexander to catch him off guard with a dive, and then Alexander hits a flatlander for two. Then Tasha Steelz prevents a distraction as John Schuyler whips out Cedric Alexander onto the floor, and Cedric Alexander counters the L nail breaker into the lumbar check for the win, and he wins with the lumbar check, and that's how he won and defeated Jason Hutch, guys. Then after the match, Cedric Alexander is attacked from behind by Order 4, and the Hardys make the save and sending Order 4 retreating up rampway. Then we are introduced to the TNA Wrestling newest knockout, the confidence. Muller Born, oh my goodness. Muller Born, oh man, she brings back some of that TV 14 stuff, I'm telling you. Oh man, that woman brought back TV 14, man, a little bit. But anyways, carried away, that you know what I'm saying. But her matches were good, some of her matches are good. I hope that she gets more time in the ring. But all that dress stuff was cool, but I hope she could put on a great match and stuff like the others do. Not just like be a Eve Marie. Because my goodness, if I see her wrestle like Eve Marie, I'm gonna go like this. I'm sorry to disrespect Eve Marie. I'm sorry. For all you Eve Marie fans, I'm sorry to be disrespectful, but she couldn't wrestle worth crap. Sorry. Sorry to act like a butthole, but she couldn't wrestle worth crap. But anyways, guys, let's carry away. Sorry for going on my huge rant again, but I love going on my rants at times. Then TNA's Knockouts Women's World Champion Kalani Jordan faced S by Elegates with M by Elegates and George Iceman by their side. And let's talk about it, guys. And Kalani Jordan retained, the TNA World title. Let's talk about it anyways. So the TNA Knockouts World title is online as Jordan defends against Heather by Elegates, and Jordan chases Heather around the ring, and Heather feints an injury, allowing M to send Kalani Jordan crashing into the steel steps back in the ring, and Heather's in control as she strength on the attack, and Heather hits a drop kick out of the corner for two, and Kalani Jordan turns the sight with a cartwheel back elbow, followed by a facebuster for a near fall of her own. Then Emma sends to get involved, but it backfired, and Jordan hits one of a king to retain the TNA Knockouts Women's World title. And that's what happened right there. Then the Inspiration must defend the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles against not one but two teams at Turning Point, which we'll talk about that, guys, as well. That match was a little bit fun, but it could have been longer, but we'll talk about that later in the next review, like I was saying. Then we had the return of Elias. His name was Elias, but Elijah. But we had the return of Elijah, guys. Elijah. I love Elijah, aka Elias. I love him. I really love that dude. So let's talk about it. So after making a cinch fell at Bounds for Glory, Elijah returns with a special live concert, and Elijah speaks on his cinch injury and since the road to recovery. And Mustafa Ali interrupts the concert to lay out a challenge for Turning Point. Order 4 fences the Hardys, and Cedric Alexander and Elijah wants to face Mustafa Ali right now, but Mustafa Ali crashes the guitar over his injury left arm, and that's what happened right there, guys. And all that stuff, with that stuff, guys. And then we had Mike Santana fences Ryan Nemeth for the TNA World title. This was good. This was good to the end. To the freaking end. Let's talk about it, guys. Let's talk about how this stuff was good to that happen. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So the main event, as Ryan Nemeth challenged Mike Santana for the TNA World Championship before the match begins, Ryan tries to start a little Go Ryan chant. Let's go, Ryan. Let's go, Ryan. But essentially, Ryan has since goals on the attack, but Mike Santana quickly gains control, and Mike Santana hits a cannonball in the corner, and Nick Nemeth is on his way to call his shot when he attacks backstage by a mystery ascents out of nowhere, and the NXT star hits the ring and begins attacking Mike Santana, and it ended in a no contest right there. Then Ryan Stone and Lexus King and Stax and Brooks Simpson and Charlie Dempsey and High Ritz are ascents as the attackers from NXT. And then Ryan Stone steps a steel chair onto the arm of Mike Santana. And then Frankie Kazarian calls his shot on an injury Mike Santana. And then Mike Santana faced Frankie Kazarian. And then Frankie Kazarian cashed in his the call your shot gauntlet. He cashed it in. And then he hits the Fate to Black. But Mike Santana kicks out at 2. Then Mike Santana goes for the spin the block, but crumbles, and then freaking Kazarian rolls him up 1, 2, 3, and steals the TNA World title and becomes the new TNA World Champion. There you go. Sorry to go on my rant. But Mike Santana, I hope you get another chance as TNA World Champion again and have a better title reign. Because that was bullcrap. That was so much bullcrap, in my opinion. But I give this show a 7 out of 10, guys. I gave this show a 7 out of 10. The women's matches were fun, except that disqualification match with, Dana Luna and Indy Hartwell on this episode. But yes, guys, I would have given this show a freaking 9 if Mike Santana would have retained. But no, this show gives a 7 because of that. But anyways, guys, I love TNA, and I gave this show a 7 out of 10. It was a decent show at best, and that's all I have to say, guys. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit those notification bells, guys. This is CJD 2006, Christopher Jackson, Denver 2006. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit those notification bells as always, guys. And peace out and take care and much love.